I'm here at the Heysham Viking Festival to find out more about the ancient civilization who first came to our shores in the late 700s.
I am Wolfwood White, a Thane of Wessex, come all the way north to defeat the army of Canute in his ways up here. That is my persona as a reenactor, but actually I'm Joe Russell. I'm one of the PR members of the society.
How did you get involved in all of this?
So for me, I went to my local open air museum and I saw them doing the combat displays, was looking to get back into a sport and thought it'd be a great thing to do. And then I just fell in love with the history of the time period. Before that, I used to love reading about and learning about World War II and World War I. Never touched the Dark Ages, early medieval period. But as soon as you start reading into it, there's so much fascinating stories, from the sagas to the actual rune stones and the Anglo-Saxon chronicles. The stories that they tell are so interesting.
I learned more about the weapons in their hands and the culture that defined them.
The terrifying weapon of war, only use alongside the sword is to kill people. This is the Dane axe, or the long axe. It comes over to England with the Scandinavians, with the Danish, made famous by Canute and his Huskarls, and then gets used all the way through to the Battle of Hastings, where this is swung in a figure of 8 in front of the Anglo-Saxon army, decapitating the Norman horses. Stories of this axe were so terrifying that after the battle, William the Conqueror banned it outright, and it was punishable by death to even own one. So it was a terrifying weapon of its day.
I do play some tunes that are from the 12th century.
Oh wow.
That's basically the oldest that we can find. So very close to the period. And I only needed 19 strings. And again, when it came, it had nylon strings, but we've put gut on. So that's a 12th century tune that's called Merry It Is, and it says, "It's very merry while summer lasts and there's birds' song, but now comes the wind's blast and weather that's strong. This night, nicht I say, is long, and I've got much wrong in my soul that makes me sorrow and mourn and fast." So we did all fast very often during the winter, because trying to keep enough food for the winter without going shopping was pretty trick. So, merry it is, will a summery last, with fugless song. Up nu neieth wind as blast, and weather strong. Hey, what this nicht is long, and ich would well make all wrong. So we mourn and fast.
Alex from Historical Herbalists told me why a Viking may not be too pleased to see a steaming bowl of broth.
There's this lore that we have about the leek and garlic broth that they would feed someone if they suspected a stomach wound, because basically if you have a stomach wound, it's really hard to cure. These days, back in the day, that was death sentence. But if they didn't know what it was, they would feed them this broth, and if they could smell it out of the cavity, then the stomach had been burst, and that was it basically. So I guess these days you wouldn't do that anymore. You wouldn't just give someone a nice broth to feed only to then be like, well, there's nothing we can do for you. However, we would use that for something else. We would use that to treat stomach complaints, for example, or cold infects, like bacterial and viral infects, for example. So it is still helpful, just in a different way.
Well, in the Viking Age, healers were known as leiknir, and this is essentially the word that we use, that we now get the word leech from. So we don't know if people were being called leiknir because they used leeches, or if leeches got their name because the healers were using them. But leeches would have been used in exactly the same way that they're currently being used in modern medicine today, which is to clear bad blood, and to improve the circulation to the microvasculature in the periphery. It's very good for fingers and toes and the hands and feet, for example. But in the Viking Age, people are using them as acute wound care. So We have our boys on the battlefield coming back with nasty injuries, and particularly if they've been marching or walking for a certain period of time and things are starting to fester and become a little bit disgusting. We know that the leeches are very, very good at being able to remove blood from subcutaneous areas, and as they're doing that, they are releasing anticoagulants, and then as they are coming off naturally from the skin, that they're releasing a coagulant and they're sealing the wound as well. So,
But what are some of the misconceptions people have about Vikings?
well, I mean, the obvious horns and helmets is luckily eradicated. It comes from Richard Wagner and the Twilight of the Gods. When that was put on stage, the costume designer decided that the Vikings didn't look barbarian enough and put horns on the helmets. The other fascinating thing is that we have a 50-50 split between people who think it was a matriarchy and people who think it was a total equality in Viking Age. It was neither. It was patriarchy. But luckily we have Graugaus, which is a law book from early medieval Iceland that will tell us a lot of the laws that they had. Amongst others, of course, the divorce laws for women. Men didn't have divorce laws, so men could divorce their women without any further ado, whereas women had to have a legal reason to divorce their husband, and there are some funny ones, but also the favorite one that everybody wants to know about is the one that a man is not allowed to show his nipple in public. We've got one lady in one of the sagas who really wants to divorce her husband, and he doesn't give her a legal reason. But so disrespecting your wife in public is also a legal reason for divorce. So she finds this loophole, makes him a shirt with a very low neckline. If he doesn't wear it, he's disrespecting her. And if he wears it, the wind will blow open the neckline. You know, so. Runes, yeah, I collect runic inscriptions from archaeology. And I do it because I think it's so funny to see that we haven't changed. We've got thousands of runic inscriptions from Viking Age. Of course, we've got several hundred, if not thousands, of rune stones in Sweden, which are basically memorials done by experts being commissioned with that task. But we also have messages from people. So basically, short messaging, SMS writing was a thing in Viking Age without the phones. So they used sticks and bones to carve their runes in. So we've got the Ave Maria and the Pater Noster in Latin carved in runes in sticks from Bergen in Norway. We have things like My Love Kiss Me. We have Gida Says You Shall Go Home. We have several things, you know, Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, in one of the galleries, and the marble somebody carved Halfdan was here. Right? So we've not changed, and we probably never will.
So there you have it. Heysham is still full of Vikings, at least on one weekend in July.